Welcome back to the Warwick F1 show for this week. It's another non-race weekend, until Sunday, and yeah, I'm your host Chinmay, and I think this week, especially, I thought it would be a good idea to basically just talk about the tracks and the calendar of Formula 1, especially with how many different tracks and how many different locations that Formula 1 has been going to in quite recently, really, in the last couple of years, ever since the COVID, and places like Turkey. We just had Miami, we're going to be having Las Vegas next year, potentially Kyle Army returning to the grid. I thought we'll just talk about some of the more controversial additions to this grid and basically just think about what we think of it. And so obviously I can't do this on my own, so how are you doing, Will, my co-host?
I'm well. I am still doing exams, I'm still writing essays, and I'm still watching Charles Leclerc crash at Monaco, because it's a yearly occurrence now.
That curse is unreal. Just the fact,
unbelievable. Yeah.
Just the fact that he crashes, not just he doesn't even finish his own home, hasn't even finished his own home race yet, but the fact that he's crashed Niki Lauda's classic Ferrari the other day.
Well, there's two ways to think about it. He's either got the curse out this week in Monaco, and I think, is it next week we're going, or the week after?
Yeah, it's the week after.
Header.
It's our second double header of the season.
So he'll do well the week after next, or this is just the beginning of a nice 2-week Monaco racing break.
Yeah. And also we have Thomas as well.
Hello everyone. Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, busy with exams as Will was saying, but yeah, happy to be back on.
Yeah. Exams just not exactly the most pleasant time of the year so
Definitely
far.
not.
Oh, you're first years, it doesn't matter for you.
I'm second, yeah.
Are you second?
Yeah,
First doesn't make it any nicer. I know it doesn't
at least
count.
it doesn't count. At least it doesn't count.
I know it doesn't count, but still, it doesn't make it any nicer.
True.
To do it. In fact, exam is still an exam. So, but yeah, I think, actually speaking of Monaco, I think we just might as well jump into that track, especially with cars becoming much bigger, and especially with the growing criticism of, because the fact that the track is so narrow, it's so small, obviously Monaco was never designed as a country to do complete racing in, and especially with overtaking being such a thing. What do you really think? Should Monaco really be still staying in F1?
It's a difficult one. Obviously, Monaco was the glitz and the glamour. It was like the showcase event before even Liberty Media came along, and obviously the casino, all of the corners. It's an iconic track. I think the problem is just with these cars, it doesn't really work. But I know in 2026 they're thinking of making the cars lighter, smaller again, and then you'd imagine Monaco would be a lot easier to drive at. And realistically, for two of the last 3 years that we've been there, it has been a weird race, because the driver at the front is clearly not the fastest driver on the grid. Obviously, in 2018, Daniel Ricciardo had engine issues and managed to hold on to the lead. In 2019, Lewis Hamilton's tyres were really old, managed to hold on to the lead. It's one where everyone was sort of driving below their limits at that point. But if you look at it when it's in the wet, that's when Monaco comes alive. Obviously 96, only 3 cars finishing technically, only 4 classified. 2008, obviously Lewis Hamilton taking his first win, but still getting a puncture while being in the lead. I think as much as Monaco maybe doesn't deliver the best race, it still has that potential to deliver a brilliant race. It's just you're looking for a diamond in the rough, but at least the diamonds are there. Whereas with some other tracks, you're never going to find a very good race there.
Yeah, I think Monaco has never provided the best Sunday. It doesn't date back to the new kind of era since 2014. It dates back to long before. Forever since Monaco's been on the grid, which was kind of right at the start, it's never provided the best racing in the world. Obviously, you've got some races that were amazing. For example, 96's Panis win. But I think what makes Monaco so special is that it's different to any other track on the calendar, in that, yes, maybe Miami has kind of taken maybe some of the glitz and glamour, and we've got many different street races now, but we always come back to Monaco because I think it's a track where drivers' talent is tested in a different way. So if we see kind of every kind of track on Dracanda, like the race is the important part, but obviously, as we know, Saturday is much more important than Sunday on Monaco, and I think it's probably the only track, or one of the only tracks, where that's really the case, and I think it tests driver skill in another way. So if I may make like an analogy with like cycling, for example, in cycling in the Grand Tours, you've got obviously races, and that's kind of most of it, but then you've also got time trials, and Monaco is a bit like the time trial of Formula 1, where it's a Saturday, you have to do the best time possible, push on the limit, sometimes go beyond the limit, as we sadly saw with Charles last year, but that makes the track even more special.
Yeah, I think especially just watching those cars. I mean, especially now, you have these massive cars that are built to go on a racetrack, but then all of a sudden you're chucking them on the narrow streets of Monaco. It's like the streets are not specifically built for these F1 cars, and F1 cars are no way really suited to these roads. And just see how the cars go around that limit in qualifying. It's just a great spectacle to watch.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, you've had some legendary moments. I mean, Senna is obviously the king of Monaco, because, I mean, it was never recorded, but I think it was the 88 lap where he beats Prost to pole by over 1.5 seconds, I think. And it's kind of those magical moments, right, where you really kind of show your pure talent.
But then, I mean, even Senna being the king of Monaco, he crashed at the just before the entrance of the tunnel. I think it's just a unique racetrack, Monaco. It's just one that you can't really recreate. I know, obviously, we're going to Las Vegas and Miami, but those are quick circuits. Those are they're just quick circuits. This one is exceptionally technical, exceptionally narrow, and obviously, I think part of it's not been helped either by the drivers improving. I think the driving standards have improving. They're less likely to crash into the barriers, but obviously we saw last year even Schumacher crashed in qualifying. And I think, as much as we don't like it, I think Monaco will probably always remain on the calendar, especially if the cars get a bit better, get a bit like smaller, get a bit lighter. Then it will bring itself back into being a track that most people maybe don't love, but maybe tolerate over hating.
Yeah, and I mean, it's an integral part of the Triple Crown as well. So for maybe people who don't know, Triple Crown is, if you win, you get the Triple Crown. If you win the Monaco Grand Prix in Formula 1, you win Le Mans 24 Hours in endurance racing, and you win the Indy 500 in kind of Indy cars, right? And why is Monaco part of it? It's because it's so historic, and to lose Monaco would be losing Triple Crown. I know only one person has ever achieved it, Graham Hill, but it's still it's still a monument of motorsport, and when people think of motorsport, they think Monaco Grand Prix.
Yeah, it's just that pure historical, and the fact that Monaco is one of the few tracks where we've consistently had the track every single year, bar 2020, I think, is the only year we haven't had the Monaco Grand Prix, because obviously the COVID pandemic. But yeah, I think, I agree here. It's just got to stay on the calendar. You can't really talk. And not to mention the scenery. It's Monaco. The scenery is one of them.
I still think they should run that race at night. That would be really cool.
That would
and then
be
again, I am an advocate for running every race at night, because night races look cool.
Majority of the time, it looks good. I mean, just look at Singapore. If you take out the lights,
especially with new events that are coming in that are showcases, essentially, I think Monaco might need to do something into the future. And I agree. Realistically, I could see them running it at night. It would make more sense traffic-wise. Obviously, residents would probably be a bit unhappy, but if you ran it early evening, maybe even into the sunset, like 9 to 11 or something.
Sunset over the Riviera.
Yeah. I don't know where the sun would set over the mountains, I think. I'm trying to think of it.
It'll set in the west, so it's kind of like,
it'll kind of be like the mountains / the sea.
But I would be interested to see if they, especially if the Monaco organisers start recognising that Miami and Las Vegas probably next year are infringing on the turf. Obviously, we saw Tom Brady a few years ago going to the Monaco Grand Prix, but this year he might go to Miami and he might not go to Monaco. It almost feels like Monaco might need to do something to retain like that status as the jewel in the F1 crown.
And it also helps. I mean, the driver leading the F1 Championship is from Monaco himself, right? So, I mean, an extra reason why it should stay.
Yeah, provided he can finish the race first.
Let's hope.
They just crash into
Sorry
each
to
other.
take shots as a Red Bull fan, but it's it's a shame that he hasn't been able to finish his own Grand Prix. That luck is just absolutely terrible. But I think quickly moving on to some tracks with less good scenery. I think we'll just move on to the Middle East quickly, because especially I know that those sort of places kind of giving them a lot of money, but then a lot of the tracks don't really have great racing, maybe with the exception of Bahrain and Turkey. But
I mean, I'm quite fine with Saudi Arabia. I think if we're examining this solely on the basis of the track, outside of any of the political things and stuff, which obviously is a big issue, I like that Saudi Arabia's it is unique. It's an exceptionally quick street circuit, obviously, and it's almost like everyone's been clamouring for a bit, not danger back in F1, but it's obviously the French runoff areas being vast, and then you go to Saudi Arabia and it's just walls close 200 odd miles an hour. I like the track. I mean, and I think it's produced 2 good races so far, realistically. Obviously, maybe the first one punctuated a bit by the fact the title race was so close and everything that came from that. But the race this year was fairly decent. There was a lot of overtakes for the lead. It was quite close. Obviously, I like the fact that the DRS zones are a bit gamey.
Yeah.
It's a bit different. I think the track requires focus. It's almost it's like a quick Monaco in a way. Yeah. I think while Monaco is slow and technical, Saudi Arabia is fast and technical. So realistically, I think it's not one of my favourite, but I think the track, if you could put it somewhere, I think if it was somewhere else, then it would be looked a lot more favourably than if it was in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. I must say I was sceptical of Saudi Arabia going in, but it has provided 2 good races. Now I still have my doubts on the safety of it, although we remember kind of a mixed crash. I think it's turn 18, the quick kind of chicane, and so there's still kind of some areas where obviously safety first in Formula 1. So yeah, Saudi Arabia, honestly, I think it's also nicer to have it more toward the start of the season, because obviously last year kind of our 3 last races were, I believe, Qatar, Saudi Arabia and Abu Dhabi. So having kind of our last 3 races in the Middle East kind of obviously wasn't great in my opinion for kind of Formula 1 as a whole, but now that it's more spread out, I think it's a better time in the calendar year.
Yeah, I think my biggest problem, is probably Abu Dhabi.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The
fact is, last year's race, before Nicholas Latifi crashed and everything went to pot, was quite boring.
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton, Verstappen pitted for fresh tyres. Obviously, we thought we might get a France or a Spain where they were coming back, but even then, Hamilton was cruising to the world title before Nicholas Latifi put it in the wall.
Yeah.
And even with the changes, which I think probably did help a bit. Obviously, one of the changes arguably caused the Latifi crash when he tried to go around the outside of Schumacher. Obviously, got his tyres dirty. And then that probably contributed to him putting it in the wall there. But other than that, there's really not been so we've had the best race. So it's been on the track since 2009. The best races I can think of, 2010, 2016 and 2021. Realistically, all those races were good because they were title finales.
Yeah.
And even then, I think the track played a big part in the title finale being the way it was. Obviously, 2010, Alonso couldn't get past Petrov. 2016, maybe a bit less, but Hamilton backing Rosberg into Verstappen and Vettel, but then they didn't have a chance of passing, probably because the Mercedes was quite quick that year, obviously also because of the track. And then realistically, this year it would have been quite a boring finish had Latifi not been in the wall. There hasn't been a good race at Abu Dhabi. It's not a good track, and I think it's the track that almost you're never going to get a good race at. I think even Sochi, and I know you were mentioning it before you came on about how Sochi was your least favourite track. Yeah. Sochi last year was one of my favourite races of the season because there was a lot of overtaking, a lot of strategy, and then obviously the rain came in and that helped massively. But that shows that it could be a good race, and but you're never going to get that at Abu Dhabi.
No,
it's just boring.
No,
yeah, straight boring, and it's as you were saying, Will, it's kind of the only partially entertaining race we had at Abu Dhabi were the ones where there was a title fight, and even then, no real overtakes happened, right? I just think the track before Abu Dhabi in the calendar year is Brazil, and Brazil just seems like just a much nicer place to finish the season. Certainly, I remember 2012 when Brazil was in the season finale, and that was a great season finale. I mean, Vettel kind of like spinning at the start and to make up races and all of that. We've seen some great races at Brazil, and obviously conditioned there, as Will was talking about. Like, when there's rain involved, it makes everything more interesting, and we'll never get that in Abu Dhabi. So I think it's also, when comparing to other potential tracks which could be a season finale, then it really kind of leads to no other conclusion than Abu Dhabi being quite a big disappointment when kind of everything comes to an end.
Yeah, I think like there's only two moments I can think of that I've liked that in Abu Dhabi. First of all was that 2010 championship finale fight with like Vettel trying to climb up, because I think he crashed a couple of times in the race as well and had to pit. And then
in 2010 it's kind of the kind of infamous kind of Alonso not being able to pass Petrov, and obviously Vettel kind of winning it on the slimmest of margins. And I mean, surprisingly, in 2012 when Brazil was the kind of season finale, it was still the same two, and Vettel kind of winning it by nothing.
Actually, I mean, the 2012 race wasn't terrible because it was Vettel coming from the back.
But Brazil, that was Brazil was really good.
Don't forget Kimi's radio quote.
Yes.
Kimi's radio quote was in Abu Dhabi 2012.
2010.
No, that was 2012.
No, it was definitely
2010. He was rallying that year.
Because
it was 2012.
2010 he was rallying.
Because 2012 Abu Dhabi wasn't the season finale. 2012.
It might have been 2013 actually.
No, it was definitely 2012. Kimi Räikkönen won 2012 Abu Dhabi and 2013 Australia. Those are the only two wins he won in that whole era, and then he didn't win until 2018 USA.
Huge from Kimi Räikkönen. What other tracks? Bahrain, I think, is probably the best one, earliest one as well.
Yeah.
We've been there since 2004. I want to say.
Yeah, 2004.
With the one break in 2011 because of the Arab Spring, but we don't talk politics on this show.
No.
But other than that, I think that Bahrain has generally provided us with a good race. I thought the 2020 race was arguably one of the best races of the season. I think my opinion of that was quite in the minority there, but I'm holding it. But even this year, it was a good race. Obviously, we had Verstappen and Leclerc battling. It was like a precursor to what the season's going on. I just think it's a good track. There's not much else to it. It is one of those tracks where I don't think you're ever going to get, maybe with the exception of 2014, you're never going to get a race for the ages. But I think it's one of those where you can always rely on a very, very solid race coming out of Bahrain.
100%.
Oh yeah, I completely agree with that. And also, I mean, obviously now, apparently more testing will be done in Bahrain before the season starts, and we're probably going to talk about Spain, but that's kind of hindered Spain in a bit. But I do think kind of Bahrain has always provided very decent racing, and it's a good alternative to Australia, the first race on the calendar, to kind of set us off.
I mean, I think testing at Bahrain has the obvious benefit of being completely different to the race conditions as well.
Yeah.
Because if you're testing during the day and racing during the night, it's not going to be comparable. It's not going to be like in Spain, where we've always been hindered by the fact they do 100 odd laps around the track. Basically, it's the track they're most dialed in on because it's the track.
I think, to be honest speaking, even if it wasn't testing, Spain would never really be a good. It's not a good track.
I like. Well, I mean, we'll probably take a break in a second and then move on to like Europe, but not terribly against Spain.
No, but it's not great either.
And I guess, I mean, the final Middle Eastern track we've been to recently, I mean, unless we've been to another one, and please correct me if we have, is Qatar. And Qatar last year was...
I thought. I mean,
a bit of a.
It was a sub-in. I thought it was very servable as a track.
And it's a MotoGP track at the end of the day. I don't know if there's plans. I think there's future plans of reintroducing Qatar to a grid, but I mean, not
Qatar is on a 10-year contract from next year to feature on.
I think it's not at Lusail. I think it might be this year because they cancelled Russia. I think Qatar worked very well in the 2021 narrative. Yeah. In that you had Brazil, you had the epic, like, Lewis Hamilton back to front win. Then you sort of bring that down a bit. You go to Qatar, it's calm, Hamilton maybe takes a dominant victory. Then you ramp it up to Saudi Arabia and with all that, and then obviously finally the massive finale in Abu Dhabi. I think it was very serviceable, and I think at that point, probably it was an alright track to go to. I mean, it wasn't perfect, it wasn't a great race. But other than that, it was fine.
I think overtaking was actually a lot better than expected because it's a very long track with literally only one overtaking spot for the F1 cars at least. But it wasn't. And I did like watching the tires exploding because it had very lethal curves. But I think, like I said, it's just there. It doesn't really do much. But,
I mean, I guess we'll see kind of what Qatar does in the future once it kind of leaves Lusail and kind of maybe a new track is built. But I mean, right now the trend is every new track seems to be a street circuit. So let's see if it's going to be the case with Qatar as well.
I think. We'll have to see what happens now. So, we'll just move back onto the track. So now I think we can kind of just switch into Europe a bit. We've already mentioned Monaco, and we briefly touched upon Spain. But I think at least Europe, compared to other continents, has a lot more of the better tracks, especially all fan favourites. I mean, we're talking Silverstone, Monza, and other tracks are there. Even probably Hungary, and guess it's a narrow track difficult for every team, but even that's produced good races in the past as well. I mean...
there's not really a dud in Europe anymore. Obviously, I think Spain is probably the one that comes closest. We've had not great tracks in the past, but they've sort of fallen off the calendar. I guess even probably include Baku in Europe at the moment. Obviously, that track has come in. I think that track's very hit and miss. But when it hits, it hits. Or when it misses, it does miss. It's either a dull race or a very, very good race.
I mean, I think we can also maybe add France to that list, where I think there should be a French Grand Prix, and we might touch upon the lack of German Grand Prix and Bukanda, but there should be a French Grand Prix. The issue is, obviously, Paul Ricard hasn't produced the best of racing over the years, right? But I think it's the case that because Europe is kind of the birthplace of motorsport and certainly Formula One, then there's this kind of historic value added to every country we go to. And so I think every country we're going to talk about in this list, we can reasonably argue there should be a Grand Prix in that country, just maybe not at the track where it's currently at.
I think especially with don't forget France is where the first Grand Prix was ever raced in Po as well. The track still exists as well. And
thing is, there isn't a good track at the moment for F1 in France. Because everyone bangs on about Magny-Cours. That track was not that good.
It wasn't, no.
For racing. No. It was bad for the cars that were a lot easier to race. I think if F1 went back there, it would be a massive disappointment. I think France, there really isn't a track. Maybe Dijon, but I don't think that's grade 1 standard. I think you'd have to do a lot of work to get it up there. I think France is a difficult one because there just isn't a good F1 track there. I think Germany, on the other hand, probably should be should be on the calendar, either at the Nürburgring or at Hockenheim.
Yeah.
Personally, Hockenheim is probably my favourite. Allegedly, it had the best F1 race of the last decade in 2019.
Yeah.
Which is wrong. The answer is always Canada 2011. That
Agreed.
race is the best.
That
race.
is a really good race.
Yeah,
yes.
Canada 2012.
And that was recency biased completely, but Hockenheim produces very good racing. Nürburgring produces probably decent racing. I wouldn't say it's as good, but probably should have the German Grand Prix back on the calendar. And I think, especially with our new German driver coming in, Mick Schumacher, obviously we've had Sebastian Vettel for a while, it seems right to have it on the calendar as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. Quickly going back to France, I mean, MotoGP races around Le Mans, actually, kind of the race literally just happened yesterday. So maybe there's potential there where we could see F1 cars around Le Mans, but that seems kind of far away into the future. But there's always hope. But going back to Germany, I think, Hockenheim has produced very good racing. I think Nürburgring has produced decent racing, but it has also produced some lackluster races. But yeah, I mean, Hockenheim, and as Will said, with Mick Schumacher coming in, and just German fans as a whole, Germany has always been a big hub for Formula One. It's the home of Mercedes. It's the home of Audi and Porsche, who might be coming into the sport afterwards. It's got so much history. We need to see it back again. And when you see some of the new tracks in locations that have no precedent when it comes to F1, I find it quite sad not to have a German Grand Prix when everyone, I think, would like to see one.
Yeah, I think it's just F1 operating more as a business than an actual sport, which is like a lot of sports, I believe, nowadays. But I think also we can also touch quickly on Portimao. Do you think it should be a permanent addition on the track? Because it's not bad, but not a great track.
See, it's why I've always thought we should have a rolling calendar that has about, I think you keep a solid 7 or 8 on, like, I don't know, Silverstone, Monza, Spa, Suzuka, Monaco, maybe if we want, maybe say Miami, and like if we have to accept the American owners. But then have tracks that don't have the money to perhaps pay for a spot every year on the calendar, like the Nürburgring, like Portimao, like probably maybe even Kyalami. Going back to Argentina, maybe Brazil, but it depends on, obviously, it would be how they choose it, but it would allow us to go to a lot more places, maybe alternate it every 2-3 years, have like a rolling set, and that is probably where I would put Portimao. I don't think that I would put it on a permanent calendar. I like the circuit. Obviously it's very unique in its elevation change, but it has been, it's been 2 years now. The race wasn't great in 2020. Obviously, we had the start, Kimi Räikkönen making up about 10 places. 2021 was fairly dull. I don't know what's especially wrong with it. Maybe it would have been better this year with the cars being able to follow more closely.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it necessarily should have a permanent place on the calendar.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because I do really like Portimao. I think the elevation change makes it a unique track, and it's nice to have a Portuguese Grand Prix. Why not? Obviously, Portugal has never been the biggest of Formula One countries. I think the last Formula One driver goes back to Montero in 2006 or something, so a really, really long time ago. But yeah, I like Will's idea of a rotating calendar, basically. I do think that if we could see more of Portimao, that'd be great, though. And once again, it plays back into there's some countries which don't have an F1 history. Well, even though Portugal has only a small one, it does have an F1 history.
Yeah, I don't think much to add. I think I'll add a third agreement that, especially rotating calendar, I think we have so many different tracks and stuff we can go in, and obviously it's not viable for F1 to have 25 to 30 races in the calendar year. I mean, I think right now is too much, 22, 23. Yeah, we have to cut down to about 18, 19. But yeah, it's definitely a great track. I just call it a much better version of Catalonia. It's a fairly...
It does have a lot of similarity, the two tracks. Obviously, Portimao does have the elevation change that Catalonia doesn't. But there are yes, quite a few similarities beyond the fact that probably Catalonia is the closest track to Portimao. But yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think also another thing could be Zandvoort.
Zandvoort is a track. Yep, that's my expert analysis. Zandvoort is a track that I think we should be going to, but it's not necessarily one that I'm going to enjoy as much. I think it's very similar to Monaco. It's just a bit more of a racetrack. It's like a racetrack Monaco rather than a street Monaco. Yeah. Obviously, I think it will be one that it will be on the calendar for Max Verstappen's career, and then once he retires, and assuming no one else comes through from the Dutch nation to go into F1, I think it will drop off quite quickly after that. I think at the moment, obviously, with Verstappen's support, it should be there. It was a very smart business decision from F1 to capitalise on the support that Verstappen gets, and obviously we saw the amount of orange there was at the track. Obviously we've had it with Austria and Belgium, but having it just be it was probably the most home race a driver could get. Even in Britain, obviously there's Lando Norris, George Russell, along with Lewis Hamilton, but having Verstappen be the only Dutch driver on the grid made that race just a very, very home race. But it wasn't a great race, to be honest. I don't think there was much to it, and I don't think there will be much to it for a while, and I do think that it's a Verstappen career track rather than maybe being a permanent mainstay on the calendar.
Not to mention a complete blind track because of the orange flares. Literally, Alonso I still remember Alonso complaining on the radio. He literally could not see anything. I could see on the cameras as well.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the atmosphere that Zandvoort brings, right? And I mean, that kind of obviously adds another dimension to the track, just beyond the kind of circuit layout and all of that. It's the fan atmosphere around it, and yeah, as Will was saying, kind of it'll probably stick around as long as Verstappen's around. It may stick longer if obviously they're willing to invest the money into it. Obviously now all kind of Dutch fans are big into F1. I think hopefully they'll still be after Verstappen. And going back to the track itself, I think the banking, right? I don't know which turn 4 or turn 5. The banking is kind of very not new, because banking has previously been in F1, but it's unique to say the least in its current form, right? No other track provides that type of banking. So I think it's an interesting track to go at, but it doesn't have the historic appeal of Monaco, and it doesn't provide the greatest of races either, so I wouldn't mind letting it go.
I mean, it's very, very similar to Austria in a way, but Austria's a good track.
Yeah, Austria's a very good track.
And obviously I can see that track lasting a while on the calendar. Obviously came back in 2014, I want to say, with
something like that, yeah.
With the return of the hybrid cars or the introduction of the hybrid cars, sorry. And I mean, it's had good races there. 2019, Verstappen and Leclerc. 2016, Hamilton and Rosberg. Obviously, 2020, the two races at the two, obviously, Austrian Grand Prix and the Styrian Grand Prix. There were good moments in that. Obviously, the race to the line with Perez's broken wing and Norris and Ricciardo and Stroll. Hamilton hitting Albon. I don't think it needs two races, and I think obviously that was a COVID thing, and I think it will drop back to one, and I think one is perfect. and it could be an interesting one this year as well, because there's a lot of overtaking, and the fact is you go from turn 1 to turn 4.
It'll be turn 4.
Yeah, because they count the kink as a turn for some.
No, turn 5 then it'll be. I forgot. But no, the turn 1 will be that.
Turn 1, turn 2 is the kink, that's not a turn. Turn 3 is the top, and then turn 4 is where Hamilton hit out.
Yeah, so
turn 1 to turn 4, obviously, there's potential for switchbacks as well. And I think I really enjoy Austria. I think it's a very good track.
Yeah.
Yeah, and adding to that, obviously it's home of Red Bull. I mean, it's called the Red Bull Ring after all. And yeah, Orange Army always been there. And yeah, I mean, it sometimes makes you wonder why was it ever taken off the calendar, right? Because it's just simply a great track, provides great racing. And it's always been entertaining. I think with Monaco, probably the shortest track on the calendar, just over a minute, but it provides great racing as was said before, and yeah, just really like Austria.
Yeah. Also, a side note, I think it's also my favourite track to drive on the F1 21 game.
It's easy.
It's not just easy, but it's actually quite fun as well.
I won there in one game. I need to buy a wheel. It's a lot easier with a wheel.
It is. Kind of thing with the controllers impossible.
Austria is easy.
It is the easiest track.
It
is. Probably that or Silverstone, but yeah.
But even Cops you're doing, it makes it a bit difficult. Maybe we'll move on to Silverstone. Classic. Yeah. It's just perfect.
And that's the end of Silverstone.
Yeah, well done. Summarise Silverstone.
It is. I mean, obviously we're in Britain right now, so maybe there's some bias in there. But I mean, I think everyone will agree that Silverstone is a track which we just simply need to go to. It's a kind of, yeah. I mean, obviously we used to go to Donington, and some people, even I think Lewis Hamilton a few years ago, mentioned the fact how he'd prefer to go back to Donington instead of racing at Silverstone. But I think now pretty much everyone's really, really happy when Silverstone comes back. And yeah, as we were kind of discussing in the break, it's near impossible to get tickets because of how quickly they sell out. So if that's not proof of how much people love it, then I don't know what is.
Yeah, I mean, and it's iconic. If you've got like just the iconic corners, they've all got names, and I think it produces good races as well, and that's all you need. Yeah. It's one. I think it's the core. It's the core 3 of Europe. One of the core 3 in Italy, Britain, and Belgium. In and those Monaco. Tracks, what?
I'd say Monaco as well, but
Monaco's a bit separate, but it's sort of like the core 3 races tracks, because they are slightly different. Britain's very flat, but it's very technical. Belgium's got all the elevation change, obviously. Eau Rouge is really iconic, and then Monza's the Temple of Speed, and it's just like the quickest track on the calendar. And I think all 3 of them have to remain on the calendar. I think they, plus Monaco, are probably the tracks that should be the most secure. I don't know if that is the case, or it's probably not the case, but it's the ones that I think if you asked an F1 fan to build or to pick 5 races to never leave the calendar, I think that Italy, Britain and Spa would be in the majority, if not all, of the F1 fans' top 5.
And even beyond kind of F1 fans, if you ask a non-F1 fan to name an F1 circuit, well, I mean, they'll probably say Monaco, but they might say Spa, they might say Monza, they might say Silverstone, because you always hear about them, because they are just integral to what Formula 1 is about. Yeah,
it's kind of like the 4 pillars of the whole sport, to be honest. And yeah, it's definitely, I don't think when was the last time we had a really dull Silverstone race?
10, I wouldn't say the 70, so you know the 70th anniversary one that Max Verstappen won. That wasn't the most interesting race.
But like a truly dull race. Like we haven't really had one for years on end.
14 was good, 15 I can't really remember, but I don't know if that was just because it's a while ago. 16 was good because it rained, 17 was Yeah, I can't remember 17. 18 was very good.
Because that's when Vettel did the upset victory.
Yeah, it wasn't really. Hamilton got punted off at the start. No, 18 was very good. 19 was
19
good. Oh yeah, because of the Charlotte. It was good. Maybe not at the battle for the front, but the low down. But 19 was a year where Mercedes had just run away with it.
Yeah, but the Verstappen-Leclerc battle was one for the ages, honestly.
20 was good.
Yeah,
because the tyre failures. The 70th anniversary one was a bit meh, but whatever.
Verstappen managed to beat the Mercs at
I can't remember what happened in 2021.
It was,
it was a bit of a boring one. That
I remember. I remember it was just Verstappen pushing because he didn't want to be like his grandma or something like that.
But no, 2021.
That was the title clash.
Yeah, I don't think much happened that race.
No, it was just really Hamilton. Because the only real big oversee that would have happened would have been the big battle between Leclerc and Hamilton, but Leclerc just he didn't.
Obviously, it came right at the start, the whole Verstappen-Hamilton collision.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that has. I think obviously once you get back in the day, you start to forget about the races. Maybe, I don't know, 2015, 2017 were probably the ones where I'd say, was 2017... No, that was 2018, I was thinking. Because I was thinking Hamilton won in Hockenheim after Vettel won in Silverstone, so it's just like payback for each other. But no, I think Silverstone always tends to deliver a good race, and realistically, you could say that the other two of the trifecta also deliver good races.
Oh yeah. Monza, we've had killer races. I mean, that Pierre Gasly win, and then we have Spa. With the whole Spa
2021 was arguably the best race of the season.
Oh, it was definitely the best race.
I loved it, yeah.
No, but normally I think Spa's been a weird one for the last few years, and that it hasn't been the. 2020 wasn't brilliant.
No,
2019 was good, but even the race, it was good for the result more than the race.
Yeah.
2018 was Here Comes Sebastian. Was that 2018 or 2017?
Yeah, that was Here Comes Sebastian in 2018.
2018.
Yeah, Spa's been a weird one in that it's not actually had the best races over the last few years, but it's such an iconic track, and I think that it can't exit the calendar. And maybe that is the reason why there are a few rumblings that it might leave, in that the races have been solid, good, but never really great. I don't know about you, Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, 2021 was a write-off.
The barge race.
Yeah. But I just think, it's just got the most, in my opinion, probably the most iconic corner in the F1 calendar in Eau Rouge, which obviously leads on to Radillon. And plenty of history, I think the 2019 Charles Leclerc win, which was obviously his first race win, I think that's going to be one for the history books, one people will always remember. And the atmosphere is always great in the Belgian Grand Prix, so I don't see any reason why it should leave. And just so historic.
Even though, quick on it, haven't they just added an extra gravel trap to Eau Rouge? Because they made the modifications.
I don't know if it's gravel. Is it gravel trap?
I don't know. I think they've made the runoff larger.
Yeah, they've definitely made the runoff larger, but
I don't know about gravel trap. I'm not sure.
Gravel trap seems. I'm not. Obviously, I prefer gravel traps, but I do recognise the need for tarmac runoff. I think at some point. I think Eau Rouge is one of the corners where
Eau Rouge definitely needs a tarmac.
Tarmac runoff is needed, because it's like Eau Rouge and Pouhon. To exception. They're probably, Pouhon in particular is probably the quickest corner on the calendar. Because obviously...
With Blanchimont as well. Which is maybe
Blanchimont, but even Pouhon has got you're coming downhill as well. Yeah. You need a tarmac runoff area there. You need one at Blanchimont, you need one at Eau Rouge, and I think we need to with runoffs, we need to strike a balance between where it's needed. I think gravel traps should always be used where it's not a very quick corner, but it's a quick enough corner. I'm surprised they didn't put a tarmac runoff at Cops.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, probably the best corners that we suit gravel is probably the Lesmos and Monza, but because they're like medium speed corners. Something like that would be brilliant.
Yeah, I think as long as...
Oh no, there is a gravel trap.
Yeah,
Les.
Yeah, no, but like, that's like perfect placement is what I meant.
I think as long as we just make the runoff larger, because obviously we sadly all know what happened in 2019, as long as kind of cars don't rebound onto the track afterwards, I think it's fine. And I mean, I don't see, in high speed like this, I don't see gravel helping much to decelerate a car anyway.
No, gravel doesn't do anything because the car just skids.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're pretty much just making the impact even worse in that respect. But yeah, I think.
I think, yeah, I mean, so we've talked about Silverstone, we've talked about Spa, I think quick convention of Monza, home of the, I think, well, the most successful, the most historical Formula 1 team ever. The Tifosi are obviously, I'd like to say, the kind of the biggest group of fans within Formula 1. And yeah, I mean, it's provided great racing. My favourite driver last year won there, Daniel Ricciardo, so super pleased about that. And yeah, it just needs to stay.
Don't forget, everybody is a Ferrari fan. Even if they say they are a Ferrari fan.
I am this year, because Mercedes need to improve. But I think Monza especially is actually giving us very good. So the last 2 years, very good races. Maybe not due to the racing, but I guess a very good race is never really due to the racing. It's when a surprise result gets thrown up. Even 2019 and 2018, very good. Hamilton coming back to overtake Raikkonen in 2018. Obviously, Leclerc holding on to the lead over Bottas, I think, in the end.
Yeah.
Before
both drivers actually.
Yeah, holding off Hamilton and then Bottas. Even 2017 was quite good. Obviously, the qualifying where Lance Stroll eventually ended up on the front row with I think Ocon behind him, and and I think Monza's another one. Well, I like driving it on the F1 game because, again, very simple track. It's the thing is, Monza's just simple but effective. It's a different type of track in that it is just speed focused, but it's less speed with corners. It's more just speed with speed. It's straight lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, sometimes when you've only got these kind of long straights, you're always going to say, oh, it's going to be the constructor with the kind of best power unit that's going to win, but it's not always the case. And the first chicane has always kind of made stuff interesting. Yeah, just and also I think with Silverstone, with Spa and with Monza, all of them have iconic corners with corner names. So I think that kind of corner names is proof that kind of history exists there. And,
yeah, I think there's not really much more to add, really, to be honest. So I think that pretty much wraps it up in Europe. Now we'll move on to the US of A. Perhaps the biggest target of the Formula 1 audience market right now.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, look, there's, I don't know, 300 million, I think, probably people that live in the US, and that's not even counting Canada, right? Often they kind of go hand in hand in terms of
that's controversial.
In terms of a market, let's say, even though obviously Canadians are very different people to Americans.
Very different.
That's for sure, yeah. But yeah, obviously it's a main attraction. I think a lot of people, even Liberty Media, are kind of wishing we get an American driver in at some point. It might happen at McLaren if Ricciardo doesn't get better performances. But yeah, it is the number one priority, and I'd say rightly so. After all, I mean, Formula 1, yes, it's a sport, and it's a sport primarily, but Liberty Media came in because it was a business opportunity, and they're American themselves, so it's not surprising we're now getting 3 races there.
Yeah, I think especially to credit where credit's due, Liberty Media has really helped with the popularity of the sport, because especially F1 back around 2014, 2015, the sport was starting to decline at that point.
I mean, with Bernie Ecclestone, I think Bernie Ecclestone said a quote going on along the lines like as to why he wasn't using social media, because he said, well, young people, they kind of don't have income, so they won't contribute financially to sport, and how wrong he was. So, yeah.
I think he's wrong about a lot of things.
Definitely, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm personally fine with America having 3 races, because realistically, if you look at it on purely population size, Europe has 11 races or 12 or whatever, and we've got about the same population size as America. Personally, Cota's a good track. I enjoy Cota. It's never been one to produce brilliant racing, but it's always been all right.
So the circuit name's a bit wrong. It should be Circuit of the World.
Yeah,
because of all the tracks they literally rips off. But
then Miami, we've obviously just had. It wasn't. I thought
it's all right.
I think it was all right. It will be all right under a specific set of circumstances.
Yeah.
And there's always that. I will be looking forward to the day, and it will happen, where a thunderstorm hits that track during the middle of a race, and it will be absolute carnage. And I am here for
we won't have Kim in there to eat any more Magnum ice cream, but.
And then Las Vegas, I think I think Las Vegas is what Miami tried to be, but I think it will be what Miami wanted to be.
Yeah.
Racing down the strip at night, 200 miles an hour, past the hotels, past the attraction.
So looking forward for that, honestly.
I think, we said it last week, obviously. I think Las Vegas is fine. Everyone's fine with what is going to end up being and the whole glitzy glamour, because that is what Las Vegas is. It's it's a package deal.
Yeah.
And realistically, the track looks alright. So other than that, I'm fairly fine with America having 3 tracks, I think.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would rather have Indianapolis than Miami, because it's a much better track in my opinion. But
I sort of like that the two have, or the two. I sort of like that Indy is for IndyCar.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's true.
just had, apparently they had a brilliant race this week at Indianapolis. It was wet, dry, wet.
Yeah, I missed that race unfortunately, but yeah.
But I think it's, as we can see, Miami, more or less a street race, we could say. Las Vegas definitely is going to be a street race, even though, as you previously said, kind of racing down the strip will be just incredible to watch, even on the television. But it's kind of, everything is moving to more and more street races, because they're built within cities and where the public is, compared to other tracks where you kind of need to do a certain amount of miles to get to. I personally, I don't mind 3 races in America. I would like it to be maybe at a different place. Certainly Miami, Las Vegas. I mean, we don't know. Could be fun. Cota, I'm a big fan of, but as you were saying, Chinmay, maybe going to Indianapolis could be a better bet.
I mean, if they just want to stay in Florida, they've got Sebring. It's not the worst track in the world. It would be. It might produce.
I think they're demolishing Sebring.
Are they?
They're demolishing one of them. I know. I saw it on Twitter.
Yeah,
Or maybe a race in Canada to please our Canadian. Canadian. I don't know. I mean, I don't know of any races of any racetracks in Canada, but
Montreal.
Oh,
you know the Canadian.
Circuit de Villeneuve.
Sorry
We're heading there next month.
That is a very bad one. But yes, obviously in Quebec, maybe one in Toronto, or in kind of the English-speaking part of Canada. But who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we may as well move on to Canada. I've actually never really been that much of a fan of Canada.
Canada 2012.
2011. Canada 2011.
Canada.
Yeah, Canada 2011 was an exceptionally good race, but that probably came with the weather. And then, other than that, I've just never really. It's been, for all the hype Canada gets as a good track, I've never really understood, because it's never really been that good in a way.
Yeah, especially since the hybrid era. I actually agree with you that Canada, I mean, it's never produced any bad races. exceptionally bad. It hasn't produced any Sochi bad or France bad or Monaco bad races. But like, I'd still love the track though. The track has to stay. I think it's such a great. I don't know. I really love the World Champions. Just watching, you just see how many drivers just falter on that corner. It's just a standard long straight into a chicane to another straight. But you just see how many drivers just mess up that corner. I think the biggest one I can think of was the last Canadian Grand Prix. We had Kevin Magnussen just completely just demolishing that Haas in qualifying. But yeah,
I mean, I think with Canada, even though the racing kind of maybe it's not the best, it's kind of, we have seen a lot of incident there, which is nice. Not only at the World of Champions, but obviously the kind of now infamous kind of Seb versus Lewis battle where Vettel kind of goes wide, rejoins the track, kind of forces Lewis into a wall a bit, and then finally gets a 5 seconds penalty, and Lewis kind of inherits the win through that. So it has produced drama in the past as well. I think we've got 2 Canadian drivers on the grid as well, so maybe it's a track we kind of need to have.
Yeah, I think moving on, we can move on to the other side of the US now, to Mexico. I mean,
I like Mexico.
It's a great track, actually.
Yeah, very good track.
Especially with that elevation, just producing a completely different challenge, because it's at an elevation almost pretty much no other F1 circuit can actually match. Because I think the second highest is only like further. I think Mexico's like 2,200 feet.
Mexico's at 22. I want to say Austria's the next one at 800 meters.
Yeah, is it?
You got to remember, 2,200 meters is actually very high.
It is
like,
super high. Yeah.
You look to the Alps, like say ski resorts, for example. There really aren't any that are that high.
Yeah,
2,200 is a very, very high altitude for a race track, and it makes it very different. Because apparently they have to, like, if it was at sea level, they'd be running Monza aero.
Yeah, 100%.
But they have to run Monaco aero just because there's less air. And, I mean, it's a good track. I don't know if... I think it suffered from the issue that Red Bull are just very, very good there. It's one of those tracks where it's always been dominant for one team for a long time. And it really brings away from what could be a very good track. I think Spain is another one that has that issue, with Mercedes obviously being exceptionally good there. Obviously, that probably won't happen this week. I don't know, I haven't checked the weather in Catalonia. It might rain. Hopefully it rains. Please rain. But other than that, I think that Mexico has very good potential as a good track. I mean, it's got 2 straights, nice long straights, obviously slipstreaming each other. I think maybe the altitude, I would say, hinders more than it helps it. Yeah. But the fans are passionate. Obviously, Checo Perez still on the grid, getting a podium last year. I like the stadium section.
Checo's dad last year was...
I love Checo's dad. He's so great.
He was the biggest highlight of the race last year, man.
But no, I think that Mexico is one that deserves to be on the calendar, and realistically, it's one that will probably stay on the calendar as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think everything's been said. I mean, I'm a big fan of that stadium section.
Yeah,
it's incredible just to see the passion the fans show. I mean, the fans just make this circuit even better. So, yeah, I do hope it stays for a while. I don't see any real issue with it. And, I mean, obviously, it was mentioned that Red Bull kind of dominated that track, and it's true, but I don't think it's insurmountable in the sense like you're guaranteed to get a Red Bull win. Not at all. I think other tracks are even more so the case. While in Mexico, it can still be a Mercedes win or maybe a Ferrari win this year. Who knows?
Yeah, because the thing is, we still don't really know where the full strengths of all the cars. I mean, the teams are still trying to understand the cars themselves, and we're seeing massive upgrades coming to Spain. So we could still see another switch in strengths and weaknesses of teams. Because I think Ferrari's finally bringing their first upgrade to the season. Red Bull's apparently looking to shed another 7 kilos. Aston Martin's apparently bringing a brand new chassis, a B-spec chassis, to Lance Stroll this weekend or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's because I feel like Red Bull this year has always been quickest on the straights, for sure.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Mexico, Red Bull previously was always seen as the more kind of agile, nippy car in the kind of street circuits, right? While Mercedes, through their incredible power unit, would kind of have obviously the straight line speed and all of that. And you could see it wasn't the case in Mexico. So maybe we'll see this season again Ferrari maybe being better around that track, even though Red Bull seem to have the straight line speed over the Italian team.
Yeah, and provided reliability for Red Bull comes through, then we might see it.
We'll see about that.
I still don't trust their engine after the first few races, but yeah, I think we can move on to another break, and then after that we can just quickly move on to the rest of the world, South America.
We'll go Mr. Worldwide for a second.
Yeah, we'll go complete Mr. Worldwide. So we only got a couple more tracks now, so might as well just become Mr. Worldwide for the last few races.
Yeah.
And I think we'll just quickly mention Brazil. I mean,
beautiful.
Great
Love
track.
that track.
great
Love it,
track,
yeah.
Fantastic races. I don't think there's any more else to say.
The
Really.
weather, it's the weather part, I think, that brings a lot to the table as well.
But even when it's dry, the
Everything.
actual track is really good.
Yeah.
Just that.
What, 2016 was quite good, because Hamilton spun when Rosberg had pitted.
Even
Okay, maybe not.
2021 was good.
21 was good, 20 was good,
Yeah.
right at the end. 2019
was a great one. That was the first Albon Hamilton hit.
Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Did we go there in 2020? We didn't, did we?
No.
2020.
No, so yeah,
No.
2019. 2018 was a race.
Is that
There.
the one? Is that the one where Ocon hit Verstappen?
Yeah. Ooh.
It might be 18 and 17 just blur into my mind.
I know.
They just sort of like
2018
meld
was the one.
together.
2018 was when.
But then what? 2012 was a very good race. Obviously,
Yeah.
Nico Hulkenberg's greatest chance of a podium slipping away right at the end.
2010 was when he got pole position there, wasn't
Yes, it was.
And he obviously something, I can't remember what happened there. He spun again or something, crashed.
I think it was just in a very... the Williams that year wasn't great. I think it was more just he hit the track at the right time.
Okay. But yeah, I don't think there's really much to say about Brazil other than it's just a great race.
We love Brazil.
We do not want it to go ever.
No.
So,
Stay forever,
Do you
please.
see that we're going to move it to Sao Paulo?
Oh yeah, Sao Paulo.
thank
No,
God.
to Rio.
Yeah,
Rio,
I
Sao
think
Paulo.
I think the whole F1 community
Thank
would.
God
Yeah,
it
that's
stayed.
right.
Yeah, I
So
don't
bad.
think that. I don't. There's a reason why it's not happening anymore. I can't remember.
Too much money. And no, deforestation.
Yes.
There was deforestation.
Huge dub for the environment.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, I think, we'll jump over the Pacific quickly. And we'll just quickly talk about Albert Park, Melbourne. 'Cause-
Yeah. Interesting track, right? It's I mean, obviously there's been the new changes, which I do think have improved racing slightly. I think obviously we now see it differently because it's not the race opener, and I think the race opener also added to just the atmosphere and the hype around it because it was the first race, because it was the first time we were going to see the cars on track. Well, it's not the case anymore. But yeah, the Australian atmosphere is really nice. I just wish there was a bit more overtaking, right?
Yeah, I think they did try with 4 DRS zones, but I think they didn't. They had to take on mainly because the porpoising, which has got too bad and stuff like that. But I think it's definitely a good track. I'm very happy that they made these changes because I really do not like that chicane on the back straight. It just made the car. It just really made that circuit really clunky. And
I think I quite like Albert Park.
Yeah.
And I think that it will be a better track now that the changes have been made. I think you can't expect good races every year, and I don't even think the race this year, it wasn't brilliant, but I think it was fairly average. I saw a great tweet about this. It was like 2021 has warped our perception on what we should expect from every race.
Yeah,
It's good. 2021, there were, I would say, 4 races that weren't good. I think both Austrias, Monaco, and then was Zandvoort, and maybe like one
Portimao.
or two more.
Portimao and Spain weren't good.
No, so I'd even watch Spain again because
because strategy.
Oh yeah,
there were
I forgot about that.
4 or 5 races that I wouldn't watch again, and even there are a few of them like La Salle. The race wasn't good, but the qualifying was fun. It still came with an overall narrative of the weekend. I think 2021, we're going to look back on it and it's going to be one of the greatest seasons of all time. I think it's like the modern era 1976 in a way.
Yeah, it is, definitely.
But that means this year we have to bring it back in terms of how we think about what an average race is going to be.
Yeah,
and I think Australia
is
an example of what an average race is going to be this year.
Yeah, it's definitely great. I think, we've just been spoiled over the last couple of years with all these great races. And I think, this year is definitely one to really bring it back down to earth. I mean, it's just, I think Albert Park is a good track. It's, even if it's not a season opener, it's a great atmosphere. It's a great street track as well. It's got its own characteristics, and it's always seemed to be that circuit that sort of switches the pecking order a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like, it's always been a bit different compared to other circuits, which was nice as well. And I think will be nice to move on to now another street track, Singapore.
Yes, Singapore.
Yeah.
Look, I love Singapore under the lights. It's beautiful to watch. Especially qualifying, amazing to watch. It's had its fair share of big incidents. Obviously, the kind of famous, I think, Ferrari sandwich on Max, and kind of just many others, obviously, Crashgate. So there's been a lot of tension, a lot of drama around Singapore. Now it's still a street race. There won't be much, if any, overtaking. It'll be strategy galore. But I still think it's got its place on the calendar, honestly, and it is so demanding on the drivers. I think it's probably the most demanding race. I think Lewis once said he lost about 6 kg just worth of sweat in one race, and so just for the unique nature of it when it comes to a athletic point of view, I think it should stay.
Yeah, I mean, I like Singapore. I think it's obviously the first night race on the calendar. I think we have missed going back there for the last 2 years, and I think it is a unique one in that it is so demanding on the drivers. I'm very curious to see. Obviously, these cars are more difficult to drive than the 2017 to 21, which were basically, you had all the downforce in the world, and it made a lot of tracks a lot easier to sort of handle in a way. I'd be very interested to see how Monaco goes in particular, how Singapore is back on the calendar, right?
Singapore's on
Singapore.
How Singapore goes.
That's part of my. I use that as my in the podcast prediction game.
I mean, obviously, Miami is maybe a benchmark for that, but I think everyone was sort of holding back in Miami because we've never been there before. But like Singapore, like Monaco, we might see very different. It might actually be a bit more crash filled because people are gonna sort of have a benchmark for how they can drive, but then they might go over it because a lot of the drivers are used to cars that are maybe a bit quicker. But no, Singapore is a great track. I think it's sort of one of those that has never been great for the racing side, but it's always good in terms of how, as Thomas was saying, how demanding it is and things like that. And I think that it will be a very good one to go back to.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely looking forward for Singapore this year.
Yeah.
Hopefully Sebastian can be the lion of Singapore again.
Who knows what's going to happen with upgrades?
Yeah, that's true. And I think so we can move on to our next one now, which I believe we can talk about Suzuka now. Japan, another track we've missed for the last 2 years, and I can't wait to actually go back there now.
Incredible track, absolutely. Yeah, incredible track. It's Vettel was saying it's by far the favourite track he's gone to. It's every part of the track has its unique characteristics to it. Like the first part of the quick acid, the second part, I mean, obviously the hairpin, and then obviously spoon corner, and then 130R, and just everywhere is just incredible. I absolutely love that track. Fans are also like great over there. I'm someone, as you can see, attached to history as well, kind of the history, and that plays a big role, and the history of Suzuka. I mean, obviously 89 and then 1990 are the kind of standout two races between Prost and Senna. So yeah, definitely should stay on the calendar. A bit like Brazil, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Suzuka's a weird one because I never really watch it because it's very early in the morning and I like sleep.
Yeah.
But I think it is a very good track, and I think it does need to stay. And I think having that race in East Asia, especially, obviously at one point we had 3 with China, Korea for the first half of the 2010s, and then obviously Suzuka. Now we're down to 1. I don't know if China's ever going to come back onto the calendar.
Yeah.
I think that might be a bit more political than we probably should discuss, but it's a weird one with China, and I think Japan hopefully should stay because it keeps F1 as a presence in the area.
I still remember, and I speak early more. I still remember just like, it was actually the last one, 2019, where they delayed qualifying because of some cyclone.
Oh yeah, typhoon.
And then I actually stayed the whole night just watching, stayed up for quali and the race.
I can never do that.
I'm never going to do that again.
I like sleep.
I regret it because sleep is just, it's the best thing in the world.
Sleep is good.
Yeah, it's the best thing ever. But yeah, it's definitely a track that should stay. And
I don't know if there are any other tracks that we haven't discussed.
I mean, I realised we hadn't really discussed Imola.
Oh yeah.
It's alright.
I like Imola. It's a racer's track. It's provided decent racing since it came back. I quite like Imola, and once again, I think it fits into like kind of like narrative of wanting to go where there's kind of so much passion, and obviously Imola is not too far from Maranello where the home of Ferrari is. So yeah, I think a track which, yeah, I mean, I'm happy with it staying, but once again, I wouldn't be surprised if it left because of contractual reasons and just money issues.
I think probably the exception of the Emilia Romagna this year, Imola has always been a great track. Because I will not lie, this year's race in Imola was awful, in my opinion. The fact that
don't get me started.
Yeah.
Even as a Hamilton fan, that was pure torture. I was watching about 15 laps of Lewis Hamilton 13th place trying to overtake, or 14th place trying to overtake Pierre Gasly.
Like for me, the only positive is because Red Bull had an almost perfect weekend. Just Perez was third in the sprint race,
but
so that was
still
about
got
it.
drama with obviously Charles Leclerc kind of spinning off, of while trying to catch Checo.
I mean, but the fact that we had 45 laps of just watching Lewis Hamilton struggling behind Gasly, sorry, but yeah, I don't really think that was a great race.
True.
But, yeah, I think, to be honest, I think that there's not really any other racetrack we have left, do we?
We didn't really talk Baku or Hungary, but they're both tracks.
Yeah.
But good tracks that.
Yeah,
no, I like them.
Yeah,
but other than that, I think
they're great. They're very great. They've got their own character as well. Hungary is very technical.
Yeah, but Hungary is often referred to as Monaco without the walls, right?
Yeah.
For good or bad, but it's provided decent racing kind of.
Bottas going wee-balling.
Yeah.
You don't see mistakes like that often from drivers.
Or the Alonso kind of becoming like the master defender against Lewis. Sorry again, Will.
there's wide Alonso is kind of showing things similar to the wide Putin meme.
But no, I think that's everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah, not to mention that was it in the safety car restart when Lewis Hamilton was the only car doing standing start.
You're never gonna see that again.
Like,
I always thought like when I was a bit younger about what would happen if like everyone crashed except one driver and it went to a red flag and then they just had to do it. But then you actually saw it in real life.
Yeah, I think the closest we've had is Indianapolis 2006, was it? Five.
When we had that
when we had only
six
cars because of the whole Michelin tyre problem.
Yeah. That's probably the closest we've come to such a kind of like weird grid order. But yeah.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's definitely something we're never going to see again. And yeah, that's the thing. Hungary is definitely one of those places that's just got one of those moments that you never see again. But yeah.
And just well done, Baku.
Well done, Baku. That's how we end it off.
Yeah. Now it's time to... I think we've got a few pieces of news we can quickly discuss. I think the first one I can probably mention was Nick de Vries just recently, I think this morning. It got confirmed. Thankfully, he didn't come after the show. He came before the show.
That means there will be more news after the show.
Yeah, that's true.
Mate, look forward to the F1 gods continuing to curse us.
Yes.
With when the show is
they
played.
Decided
we've moved it from Wednesday, so now it might actually work. But Monday's normally when stuff doesn't happen, and then Tuesday is when it all occurs. But this time, Nick de Vries, seat for Williams, probably deserves it, doesn't he?
Yeah, probably long overdue now that he at least has an F1 session.
I mean, look, is he an improvement over Nicholas Latifi? Most probably, but is that hard? Not really. and it's more the fact. My issue is he's 27 years old. Like, we still think of him as a young driver, but he just isn't anymore.
He's like the Jesse Lingard of Formula One.
Yes,
just that man is 23 permanently.
Yeah.
Yes,
exactly. And it's just, I feel like, realistically, is he going to get an F1 seat? Maybe, but I just don't see it when there's kind of Logan Sargent, maybe kind of in the Williams Driver Academy, and anyway, Williams have many other options beyond its own academy to kind of get drivers in afterwards. So I don't really see the point of this FP1 session, if I'm being honest.
I don't see why not.
It's an FP1 session. I don't think that.
Yeah.
It's
a pointless session anyway.
Yeah. It's FP1.
In the sense, like, if it's pointless, then I don't know, give it. Because, do we know he'll probably be replacing Latifi, I'm guessing?
I will try and find it now. So keep talking.
Yeah. But so, I just think kind of Nick de Vries, as much as he is a good driver, and as much as, yes, he probably did deserve a chance in F1 at some point, it's now over, and I'd honestly prefer that FP1 session going to Logan Sargent, for example, from the academy. Who he does have a chance of maybe integrating Formula One afterwards, should be in part of the Williams family.
He is replacing Alex Albon in the seat. I think that it's a potential one, because obviously with Williams' new owners, they publicly stated that they don't necessarily need as much money as Latifi brings in. Basically saying we don't need Latifi.
Yeah.
It's like when F1's probably, it's similar to football in a way. Obviously, you want young players or young drivers, but sometimes an experienced driver does the job. Yeah. And realistically, de Vries,
he's still got a long time.
Yeah. F1 drivers probably getting to 35, 36, that's when they start to decline. So he's got, 8 years until he gets there. I think
not just that. F1 has had a lot of drivers who are older, especially in recent times. I
think Damon Hill was
about
26 when he came into this.
I thought he was about 30.
I will keep talking.
He came into the sport very late, and obviously he went on to win the 96 World Championship. I think he was fighting in 94 as well.
Yeah. He came into the sport at 32.
Yeah.
32. Wow.
He was born in 1960 and his first race was in 1992. So 32 years old. I mean, it is the exception as opposed to the rule, but I do think that Nick de Vries isn't quite old enough. I think maybe preferable for younger, but I could very much see them using him for 1 or 2 seasons, maybe I think he's a perfect driver, and I think what Red Bull are doing the same thing with Sergio Perez, in that he'll be there for a year or 2 to get to the next point where some of the younger drivers are starting to come through.
Because I think right now, in terms of the driver pool, the next 2 drivers, in terms of young drivers, will definitely have Formula 1. A is Piastri. He should have got a seat this year. He should have. And B, probably it would be, what's his name now? Théo Pourchaire.
As Pourchaire... Wait, are we talking for Williams?
Just talking about really in general.
What Colton Herta's always
always
on the rumour mill.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's just, for me, it's... I do understand that De Vries is... still has many years ahead of him. But it's not as if we're talking about someone that does have Formula 1 experience. He does have, I guess, F3 experience or Formula 2 experience, but Formula 1 is a whole different ball game. And say, for example, Piastri doesn't manage to get a seat at Alpine, or say Théo Pourchaire doesn't manage to get a seat at Alfa Romeo. I personally believe those are better bets for Williams than a Nick de Vries is, because, as has been said, Nick de Vries, I don't see him necessarily there in the kind of long term either for Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be an interesting one, and I think the rumour mill this year could get... Obviously, there was that story that we spoke about in the Warwick F1 Society group chat. Obviously, the 2 drivers coming in. I think there's a not a time bomb in place, but you can hear faint ticking, and at some point that might go off. In a way.
Yeah, 100%. I think we'll just have to see how it goes, really.
And speaking of Formula E,
yes,
obviously he's the winner of it.
Yeah.
Huge segue. I'm very proud of it.
And also with Formula E, next headline was Formula E with McLaren to acquire the Mercedes EQ Formula E team, and basically literally just take over the whole thing, really. I think pretty much the entire Mercedes team is just pretty much just changing name to McLaren. In that respect.
Yeah, I think they've just bought it. I'll be interested to see who they put in those seats, though.
Yeah. So I don't think so. Stoffel Van Dorn's staying.
Van Dorn's moving to Dragon. Someone put it in. Someone put it in the chat.
Yeah, someone like that.
I'll look for it while we're discussing.
But yeah,
look, it's an interesting move. Obviously, we knew Mercedes was going to leave, and kind of the reasons behind it may be a bit kind of like
hazy.
Hazy, obviously. But yeah, I don't think realistically there will be much change. Not at all. Because I don't see them moving factory either. They don't need so. It's really mostly just a name change. Renault became Alpine, or Toro Rosso became AlphaTauri, for example.
Yeah, probably something like that.
Yeah, so Stoffel's going to Dragon. I could potentially see Colton Herta going into McLaren. Is actually now just a massive racing entity.
It really is.
They've moved so far. The 2020, they're literally struggling. They've had to sell the MTC, and they got a massive loan from the Bahrain. Is it from Bahrain?
Yeah, I think it's the investment group.
Yeah, investment group or something. And then look at them. They're obviously in Formula 1. They always have been. IndyCar. Obviously now from Extreme Esports.
Esports, yeah, exactly.
they're literally going everywhere.
I'd be very interested to see if they go back into WEC with the new hypercar class. Get a Senna GTR.
That'd be great. That'd be amazing.
And I think especially in the last 10 years, the McLaren supercars are just they're among the best.
But no, it's very. I'm looking forward to seeing who gets those seats, but I can't. I mean, it's a rebranding. I can't imagine it will make that much of a difference.
Yeah, it's just it'll be nice. It's just nice to see McLaren, especially now. Who doesn't like McLaren nowadays?
Yeah,
but yeah, I think any other. I
mean, Vettel went on Question Time, which was great.
Yeah,
that was interesting.
I mean, it was brave of him to be.
No, it was incredible.
Very brave.
Because realistically, going on a political show and it's a show where we got to remember. His first language is German.
Yes.
It's a second language. It's like asking. So, like, if I was ever confident in another language, it would still be very difficult to talk in-depth political issues.
Yeah.
And I thought his answers were really good as well. Obviously, he was saying how it probably is hypocritical for him to be preaching about climate change or to be talking about climate change while still being in F1, but he recognises that, and that's why he is still trying to improve the sport. And I thought it was an incredibly articulate and impressive performance from him.
I think everyone can agree in saying Vettel is an amazing ambassador for our sport, and what he's done is incredible, and a lot of people are seeing him potentially as the next FIA president, for example. And
I will not be surprised.
And I think that would be a role that would suit him really well. I do hope we see him in the Formula 1 sphere in the years to come.
Yeah, I think just with Vettel, I think this is just interesting. Like, I love how Vettel's just one of those people. He does what he says. Because I don't want to name names. I do feel a lot of celebrities, they say a lot of stuff. They say they believe in this sort of stuff, but they don't really do a whole lot. Whereas Vettel, he's constantly out there, and like he stays behind. He's picking up the trash with the stuff, and then he's obviously campaigning for human rights and whatnot. And he's just a legend. We do not deserve Vettel.
Everyone's a Sebastian Vettel fan, whether you say it or not.
Yeah,
that's how we'll end it off.
Which is incredible to say. Imagine, I would never have believed that if I was talking, if people were talking about this back in like 2012 or 2013, when he was a very hated driver, rightly or wrongly, probably wrongly, right? But he did have, and he himself admits, I think he did have this kind of, maybe not, some type of cockiness about him, but he's really kind of, we've really seen the true side and the great side of Sebastian over the years.
Big up, Sebastian.
We all love you, Seb. Please stay.
But I think that's kind of it really with the news anyway. And hopefully next week we'll basically
España.
Yes.
Spanish Grand Prix.
Spanish Grand Prix.
I'll be hosting as usual after a great race, and I will get up the weather quickly while I'm talking. But no, it should be a good one. I'm looking forward to being back in Europe for the first time in a very long time, actually. Because we left
Imola.
We're just in Italy.
Stop contradicting what I say. Right, and the weather. I know I'm wrong. Don't know why we went to Italy. That was silly. What is the weather looking like? Oh, just sunny. Brilliant. That's boring.
But it is Monday, so we'll see closer to the time.
Right, well, it might be a chance, but no, Spain should be a good one. Make sure to tune in, and obviously, if you don't tune in, you'll find it afterwards on YouTube and wherever we ever put it.
Yep, definitely. So, this is Chinmay Bharatiya signing off for the week, and thank you, Thomas, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you.
As well. And thank you for listening.